The house was dark, except for the thin strip of light seeping from the office door. I shouldn't have gone in. My husband never liked me touching his things, especially his computer. But the laptop was open, screen glowing faintly, as if it had been waiting for me. I hesitated, listening for his footsteps upstairs. Silence. He was asleep. I slipped into the chair and pulled the laptop closer. My stomach was tight, my fingers clammy against the keys. I told myself I was only checking one thing. He'd been vague about his last business trip, saying he stayed at a hotel near the airport. But when I saw the receipt, the address didn't match. Tonight, I wanted answers, just enough to ease the gnawing in my chest. His folders looked ordinary at first glance: work, bills, photos. I clicked through them quickly, scrolling. Most were boring spreadsheets and reports. I almost shut the computer. Then something caught my eye. A folder buried inside one called Archive 2008. The name, David_Reed. My blood ran cold. That was my brother's name. My dead brother's name. I leaned closer, staring at it, half convinced I was imagining things. David had been gone 8 years. A drunk driver. I had stood beside his coffin. There had been nothing left unanswered about his death. And yet here it was, his name on my husband's computer, as if he was still alive, waiting to be opened. I clicked. A password prompt appeared. My heart slammed in my chest. I tried his usual password, our daughter's birthday. Denied. I tried again with our wedding date. Wrong. My breathing grew shallow. He had locked it with something else, something deliberate. Footsteps creaked upstairs. I snapped the laptop shut, nearly dropping it. My hands trembled as I pushed the chair back into place. By the time I slipped into bed beside him, my skin was damp with sweat. His breathing was steady, heavy with sleep. I stared at him in the dark, listening to the rhythm of it, wondering how he could rest so easily while I was choking on suspicion. I turned onto my side, careful not to touch him. In the faint light from the window, his face looked peaceful, almost innocent. But I couldn't stop replaying what I'd seen. My husband had a secret file named after my dead brother. The questions clawed at me until dawn. Why would he keep that file? Why lock it? And what was inside that I wasn't meant to see? Morning light crept across the curtains, but I hadn't slept. The name on that folder burned into my mind. By the time my husband rolled out of bed, I had already decided. I had to ask him. Not directly. Not yet. But I needed to know how much he was hiding. At breakfast, he poured his coffee, scrolling through his phone like always. I forced my voice steady. Do you ever think about David? He looked up, startled. Your brother? Of course. Why? The answer was too quick, too smooth. His eyes darted back to the screen. I studied his face, searching for cracks, but he gave me nothing. I tried again. It just came to me last night. I miss him. He nodded, but there was no warmth in it. No memory shared, no question back. Just a nod. That silence told me everything. He knew something I didn't. When he left for work, I went straight to the office. The laptop was gone. My stomach dropped. He had taken it with him. 4 hours, I paced the house. Why would he need to carry it today, of all days? Unless he knew I had seen something. Unless he was hiding it before I could dig deeper. By the time he came home, I was raw with nerves. I confronted him. You took the laptop this morning. Why? His jaw tightened. I needed it for work. I pressed on. What's in the folder named David Reed? The mug in his hand froze midair. For a split second, his face drained of color. Then he set the mug down carefully, too carefully. Why were you snooping on my computer? His voice was low, controlled. That's not an answer. You had no right, he snapped. The calm mask was gone, his voice sharp enough to cut. Stay out of things that don't concern you. But it did concern me. It was my brother's name. My dead brother. I stood there shaking, watching him retreat into silence. He wouldn't explain, wouldn't look me in the eye. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just a folder. It was a wall between us, one he wasn't willing to take down. Lying in bed that night, I stared at the ceiling again, the same question looping in my mind. If he had a file under David's name, and he was willing to lie about it, what exactly was he hiding from me about my brother's death? I couldn't let it go. His reaction the night before, anger, fear, silence, confirmed what I already knew. That folder wasn't just an old file. It was something dangerous, something he couldn't afford me to see. The next morning, when he left for work, I drove straight to his office. I had never done that before. I parked across the street, waiting. From my seat, I saw him walk in with his laptop bag slung over his shoulder. The sight made my pulse quicken. I couldn't confront him there, but I needed answers another way. I reached out to someone I hadn't spoken to in years, an old friend of David's, Mark. We met at a small cafe near downtown. When I asked if David had ever known my husband before me, Mark hesitated. His fork hovered over his plate, then he set it down slowly. "Yeah," he said at last. "They worked together. Briefly. David never told you?" My chest tightened. "No, he didn't." Mark frowned. "He said your husband was trouble. That's all I remember. He wanted to keep you away from him." The floor seemed to tilt under me. My brother, protective even back then, had warned me without ever saying it directly. And my husband had buried that truth. I left the cafe shaken, my hands trembling around the steering wheel. If they had known each other, then the folder wasn't random. It was history. And maybe guilt. That night, I searched again. This time, I checked our shared home computer, the one in the study. Buried deep in the browser history, I found a series of recent logins, encrypted email accounts I had never seen before. One of them used David's name in the address. I stared at the screen, heat rising in my chest. My husband wasn't just keeping a file, he was actively using my brother's identity. When he came home, I confronted him again. "You knew David before me. You're using his name. Why?" He froze in the doorway, the grocery bag still in his hand. His eyes flickered, shock, then anger, then something colder. He set the bag down without answering. The silence stretched until I couldn't bear it. I whispered, "What did you do to my brother?" His jaw clenched, but he said nothing. Only the sound of the refrigerator door opening broke the tension, as if my question hadn't been asked. And in that silence, I knew something terrifying. My husband wasn't just hiding secrets. He might have played a role in David's death. I couldn't ignore it anymore. Every silence, every deflection, every unfinished sentence, it all pointed to the same truth. My husband had something to do with David's death. The thought sat in my chest like a stone, heavy and suffocating, but I couldn't keep pretending. By morning, I felt strangely calm. Fear had burned away overnight, leaving only determination. While he hummed in the shower, I slipped into his office. My hands shook as I searched through his bag, rifling through papers and cables until I found a small flash drive tucked into a side pocket. My pulse quickened as I slid it into the computer. A folder appeared. David_Reed. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Then I clicked. The screen filled with documents. Emails, scanned contracts, financial transfers. Names of companies I'd never heard of, numbers that didn't make sense. But one thing was clear: fraud, laundering, corruption. And right there, in the middle of it all, was David's name. He hadn't just stumbled into trouble, he'd been investigating my husband. Scrolling further, I found an email dated 3 days before David's crash. From David Reed. To my husband. Subject: I won't stay quiet. I pressed my hand to my mouth, heart racing. My brother had tried to stop him. And then David was dead. The bathroom door opened. I yanked the drive out and shoved it into my pocket just as he walked in, towel around his shoulders. He froze when he saw me at the desk, the laptop still glowing. "What are you doing?" His voice was sharp, a blade disguised as calm. I stood, clutching the flash drive. I know you and David worked together. I know he tried to expose you. And I know his death wasn't just an accident. His jaw tightened. He didn't deny it. He didn't even blink. He just stared at me with a cold, measured silence that was worse than words. My throat burned. You let me grieve him, you stood next to me at his funeral, you held me while I cried, and all this time, you were the reason. He took a step forward, hands slightly raised. Rachel. Stop. You don't understand what you're doing. No, I snapped, my voice breaking. 4 years, I thought I'd lost my brother to bad luck. But it wasn't bad luck, was it? It was you. You chose yourself over him. And you've been choosing yourself over me ever since. His lips parted as if to argue, but nothing came out. He looked smaller somehow, cornered, stripped of the lies he'd hidden behind for years. I didn't wait for excuses. I grabbed my bag, slipped the drive inside, and walked past him. He caught my wrist, just for a moment, his grip trembling. Rachel, if you take this any further, you'll lose everything. Our home. Our life. I met his eyes, and for the first time, I felt no fear. Only clarity. I already lost everything the moment you let David die. His grip loosened. I walked out. That evening, I sat in my car outside the police station, the flash drive heavy in my hand. My reflection in the windshield looked foreign, tired, broken, but stronger than I had ever been. For years, I had lived in the shadow of loss, believing grief had made me powerless. But now I saw the truth. Grief hadn't destroyed me. Betrayal had transformed me. I stepped out of the car, head high. Whatever came next, investigations, trials, rebuilding, I was ready. David hadn't died in vain. I would make sure of it. And as I walked into the station, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: freedom.